There are so many books that brand managers can benefit from. Like, I could create an entire list on just books on design or a list on just communication or business management. In this video, I'm going to share some of my personal favorite books that I consider essential reading for brand builders at any stage. So it doesn't matter if you're a corporate brand manager or a business owner or someone just growing a side hustle or building a brand from scratch. A small disclaimer is that this list is not definitive or ranked in any order. There are so many books out there that have some great ideas, and I've just selected a few favorites. Let's start the video. Okay, the first book was published just a few months ago and it's called Smart Brevity. This is a handbook on effective communication and it kind of changed my life. If you own a brand or business of any kind, you likely send out many emails and DMs asking things of people, like asking for a coffee chat or asking for some information or even asking someone to consider buying your product. But as the data in this book suggests, people are overwhelmed by the amount of data that they need to read every day. They are perpetually distracted and they just don't have the time to read word for word what you send them. Realistically, no one spends more than 20 seconds reading any piece of content, whether it's an email or a published article. So if you want to be heard, then your best chance is to employ Smart Brevity, which is a smart, sharp idea delivered in a very clear, bite-sized chunk that grabs attention, is easy to remember and execute on. The writers of this book show you how to structure various pieces of content like this, like emails, meetings, presentations, speeches, and even social media stuff. I love this book. It's short. You can basically just read it in an hour. Highly recommend. Next, we have Start With Why. Okay, if you've not even heard of this book, are you even in brand or marketing? I think this book is most famous because of the TED Talk that Simon gave many years ago around the idea that people don't buy what you do, but rather why you do it. This book will show you how various people build meaningful businesses, big brands, and big products based on their vision of why they want to build it. You've got to understand that people only really trust brands that are driven by reasons that go beyond just self-serving, like making money. Now more than ever, younger people want to know why what you're doing matters and what your vision is that they can get inspired by, rather than just giving them like a pro-con list of the benefits of using your product. There's also some great stuff in there about maintaining your vision through the years, through clarity, discipline, and consistency. Next, we have How to Lie with Statistics. Have you ever seen claims in advertising like 1 in 3 dentists recommend a toothpaste and wondered where those numbers come from? Knowing how statistics work and how easily they can be manipulated is a very useful skill. You're going to come across so many numbers in consumer research, competitive analysis, market data, and you need to make sure that you can think critically about those numbers and also able to challenge them. Even the meaning of simple words like school or family can change so much from study to study. This book was published in 1954, so some of the references are a little dated, but the concepts are timeless. It's a super quick read with lots of illustrations and surprisingly good humor. It also shows you how easy it is to corrupt the statistics to support a viewpoint, like biases in selecting the sample, or conveniently not looking at data points that would change the conclusion. If you are ever feeling uninspired and want to read something that will motivate you to continue on your brand and business building journey, then I recommend The Dip. There are 2 main ideas in this book. The first idea is that you need to try to be the best at whatever you're trying to accomplish. And the reason is that whoever is number 1 usually benefits from a disproportionate reward versus number 2 and number 3 and so on. And the writer gives many examples of this in many different fields. Here he also talks about how it's completely normal to feel a little bit of a dip in motivation when you've been doing something for a few weeks or even a few months. Also, you may feel unmotivated as you lose that beginner's excitement, but it's really important to keep going through that dip, and in fact many dips over the years, if you want to benefit from the long-term compounding rewards of being number 1. There is a little bit in there where he talks about how to actually come to number 1, which I always find myself coming back to whenever I need a little boost of motivation. Building on this, the second idea is that we should let go of anything that we're not trying to be number 1 at, because there's only so much money, time, and energy that we have. Instead of trying to be okay at many different things, you are are much more likely to benefit from disproportionate success if you can become truly the best at one thing. Next, I have a book on typography called Let's Talk Type. This is more of a technical book on typography and what different fonts communicate. I think some brand managers will definitely find this interesting, especially if you're in the design and aesthetic building phase of your brand. By the way, there are so many different books out there on typography. What I personally liked about this one is that there are little paragraphs about each popular font with a use case on where they're used, which I found really interesting. So if you've ever wondered about use cases for different fonts, like why ebook readers like Kindles only use a specific kind of font, or why 80% of the airports in the world only use between two different fonts, then I think this could be an interesting read for you. The next book on the list is Building a Story Brand. This is a communication book about how to clarify your message so that it resonates with your consumers. It also practically explains how to use storytelling in your branding. My favorite takeaway in this book about storytelling is that every story has a hero who encounters a problem which he needs to overcome in order to get what he wants. And at the peak of the hero's despair, he encounters a guide who steps into his life and gives him a plan or something that will ensure that the hero accomplishes what he wants. The mistake that most brands make is that they position the product or the brand as the hero. So all their messaging is centered around how the product is so great and the brand is so amazing. But the paradigm shift is that actually the customer should be the hero and the brand or the product should be that guide who comes into the hero's life to fix his problem or to help him achieve something. So start structuring your ads and messaging like this, and you'll start seeing a much better connection with your users and customers. Finally, the last book is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who was a FBI hostage negotiator for like 15 years before he wrote this book. And his whole thing is that everything that you do in life, even simple things like buying a car or asking someone for a favor or reaching out to someone, is like negotiating. And the best way to negotiate is to understand that people make decisions that are emotional, not logical. So why is this book relevant for brand managers? Well, if you are going to build anything meaningful, like any type of brand, any business, you are definitely going to come across so many different roadblocks in mergers, acquisitions, supply chain, distributor relationships. For example, in 2020, a very powerful supermarket chain in France, Belgium, and Germany stopped carrying Coca-Cola because of a bad negotiating experience, and which is of course a very big deal because Coca-Cola is a very popular drink. Long story short, the government intervened, and after a few months they started carrying Coca-Cola products again. The point is that you could very well be on either side of that discussion table, and how you react could change the outcome. In this book, Chris shares some very specific strategies, tools, and hacks that you can use in your own life to diffuse tricky situations and come out on the other side with win-win arrangements. And that's it. Maybe I'll do a second part to this video because there are still so many amazing books out there. Please tell me about your favorite brand and business books and I'll definitely check them out. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.